Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's me, it's Clayton, and I just got out of seeing Logan. Now, when it comes to the X-Men movies, there have certainly been a lot of ups and downs, but let me just say that this final performance of Logan from Hugh Jackman is only one of the many amazing things in this final film for Wolverine. With a dark and gritty tone, but still some lighthearted moments, incredible bloody action, and a story that might be the most heartfelt and also the most depressing of the X-Men series. This is, without a doubt, the best X-Men film so far, and a fitting swan song for Wolverine. But let's get to the story, shall we? The movie is set in the not so distant future, where Logan has started to age due to his healing factor faltering. He lives outside of the Mexican border with Caliban, played by Stephen Merchant, and an also heavily aged Professor Xavier, played once again by Patrick Stewart, as he's trying to get enough money to get them out of their situation and hopefully head to a secluded place where they can be safe. However, when a young mutant named Laura, played by Daphne Keane, heads over to where they are and requests to be sent to a place called Eden in North Dakota, the entire team ends up getting pursued by these guys named Reavers, led by a charismatic but very sadistic man named Donald Pierce, played by Boyd Holbrook. When all that happens, Logan is sent on a journey to get Laura to Eden, as she might be the last hope for mutant kind, while avoiding the Reavers and the employees of the Transgen Corporation. That's all I'm going to say without spoiling any of the story. So what did I like about the film? What's not to like? As it loosely adapts the story Old Man Logan, this story manages to be very heartfelt and very touching because while Logan remains the badass character that we all associate him as, because he's aged and because he's seen so much throughout his life, he feels a lot more vulnerable and a lot more susceptible to out-of-control rage. It really gets you to feel sorry for the character even when he's being a massive jerk. It puts us in a scenario where him being a jerk and where him doing all of these things, it has context and it really gets you to understand him for the character he is. Hugh Jackman puts on an incredible performance, basically getting you to both feel sorry for Wolverine and getting you to understand why he's an amazing character and why people have fallen in love with him so much over the years. Not only that, but Patrick Stewart might have put on the performance of a lifetime as Professor Xavier too, as he shows you a new side to Xavier we haven't seen before, especially since he's as old as he is and he's as out of control of his powers as he is at times. And other great performances are all over the film, such as Stephen Merchant as Caliban, proving that he can be someone other than Wheatley from Portal 2, and last but not least, Daphne Keane and Boyd Holbrook. Boyd Holbrook plays Donald Pierce, and I really do like the fact that he's very charismatic and that he can bring some levity to scenes without losing even a bit of intimidation. He feels almost like a Western villain in that respect, which makes sense considering half the time I felt like I was watching Hell or High Water when it came to the sets that were used and when it came to the type of enemies that Wolverine would face, which is mostly just guys with guns, as opposed to the mutant-on-mutant battles from the other X-Men movies. But the last actor that definitely surprised me was Daphne Keane as Laura. As you've seen from the trailers, she has her own mutant powers too, and she rarely, if ever, needs saving. And Laura is a total badass in the film, and she gets across a lot of emotional weight without even saying a single word. It's that type of performance where you don't even need a lot of dialogue to convey a lot of emotions, especially for a child actress. That lets me know that Daphne Keane's probably going to be seen in Hollywood for a long, long time. And I'd love to see more from her. Another thing that makes this film great is that it feels unlike any other X-Men film in the series. There's no guys in flashy costumes, there's not a lot of CGI effects, there's no big explosions. Heck, when Wolverine sees a bunch of X-Men comics in the film, he immediately disregards them as fictionalized versions of the stuff he's gone through. Especially since this film seems to disregard a lot of the stuff that's happened in the previous films, to the point where this film could basically stand on its own and you'd get a similar experience. You don't need the other X-Men films. You don't need X-Men Origins Wolverine or The Wolverine, which James Mangold, the director, also directed. You can see this just on its own and still appreciate it for how good it is. And even though this film's the most grounded, the most realistic, and has the most depressing moments, it still happens to have some well-done comedic moments from Logan, from Xavier, from Laura, and from all the characters without it feeling out of place. Heck, there's not even a Stan Lee cameo or an after-credits scene, and to be honest, if those were in there, those would have detracted from the experience. James Mangold knew how to make a successful film about Wolverine, how to make it dramatic without anything feeling out of place, even the little bits of humor, which are only there to bring a little bit of levity to an otherwise very dark and very gritty story. And that's what I appreciate about the film. The tone is consistent throughout, and you are engrossed throughout the whole thing. One of the only problems I had with the film is the fact that the pacing towards the middle of the film is a little stretched out. I mean, the film starts strong and it ends strong. It starts out getting you immediately invested in Logan's character and getting you immediately into the bloody R-rated action. And the ending, without spoiling anything, is touching, it's depressing, but it's also very hopeful. But the middle part does drag a little bit. But it only drags slightly a bit towards the middle part, and once you get past the hump that is the second act, the rest of the film flows together pretty smoothly. Now, the R rating for the film does help out the film a lot. Yes, there's a lot of cursing, and yes, there's a lot of blood, but it doesn't feel out of place or corny or just put in there to be gritty. It feels like this type of story was made for the R rating, and if it was PG-13, it would have neutered a lot of the scenes that are so effective here. So, to make this final Wolverine an R-rated film, it doesn't feel like it's just a gimmick. So it really makes me think that there are other superhero stories that, with an R rating, and if it's handled well, and if it's written well, they can do so much more than if the films were PG-13. So, that's basically all I have to say about Logan. It's incredibly gritty, incredibly dark, incredibly bloody, and very profane, but also it's one of the best X-Men films I've seen in a while, in my entire life. It's the total package. I recommend that you go see it. And honestly, without any ambiguity here and without any joking, I'm giving Logan a 10 out of 10. See you next time.